Testing. Testing.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good morning.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm still logged on as Ted. If that helps us with the recording, I can change my name.
Because sometimes we just don't want to be Ted.
Are you speaking?
I am speaking.
Unmuted?
I'm
testing,
unmuted.
Testing, testing. Trials and tribulations.
Always. Go through this just about every time.
Audio, audio, audio.
So I'll keep talking and wait till your sound routes through the right channels.
Yes, you're right. It was still playing on my TV from the Faith Tech event I was attending yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bright topic. Faith Tech.
Yeah, there's an organization comes out of Waterloo, Canada, and they now have several other ministries that were doing stuff here in the Bay Area kind of merged into Faith Tech. And so they have a monthly meeting, which is now a Zoom call, which makes it a lot easier to dip into like everything else. And I'm actually meeting with one of the organizers tomorrow as part of this new project I'm doing with Giuseppe and Bill. And Bill is presumably en route.
Maybe, yeah. He had checked in this morning.
He couldn't find the Zoom link. Okay, that is a simple problem to fix. He declined the calendar invite, possibly by accident, and often that results in in the thing dropping off of your views. Yes. Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning. Hi, Steve.
Good morning, Bill.
Thanks for joining us. Steve, would you mind opening us in prayer? I could use it.
Heavenly Father, would you be with us and prepare our hearts? Would you prepare our minds to listen to you, to listen to one another, to form ideas, and to give shape to vision, to give shape to the things that you would want us to pay attention to? We thank you, Lord, that as a holy God, you graciously give time and attention to us, though we are but dust. We are honored and we draw life from being called into your family, from being called children of God. And to be adopted by you is an incredible gift. I pray that our hearts would be focused on sharing that gift with others, encouraging one another in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Steve.
All right. So what I wanted to do today was kind of go over what Bill and I discussed last week and see if we can get on the same page about what to do on Tuesday. So the meta pitch is to actually do a structured discussion on Tuesday rather than the very sort of free form, often ad hoc process. And so I thought I'd like try and formalize some of the things we do and get them in alignment. So, I wrote down a version of Ted's opening intro here. assume that's spam. So I decided to go with the 3 I's. I assume that's fairly consistent with what we've been saying, but it also defines Theostes and the pronunciation, which rhymes with Beyonce.
Yes, that's great.
All right, this is a tweak on the purpose statement we approved 2 months ago, or say 2 weeks ago. My timing is bonkers, but that's. And in particular, I've really been reflecting on Bill's vision of community. And, I've always been uncomfortable with the communitarian perspective because of my Indian background of how it leads to a groupthink thing where you're not allowed to dissent.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad.
And so this phrase of each of us helping all of us is kind of how I'm reconciling that. Is that, look,
okay.
The goal is to help all of us get better. And then each of us has a responsibility in that. And
yes.
It's actually hard to figure out the right ways to do that. Is to people share what's on their hearts in a way that actually helps everyone grow, as opposed to the signal to noise problem.
Yes.
And so
it's a battle every time, Ernie.
Yeah, so
right.
Can I interject something?
Please.
Whenever I'm in a church context and someone says it's hard, my ears prick up and I say, yes, let's do it. Because for 34, 50, 60 years, it's always been, let's choose the easy path, and nothing ever happened.
Right. So what I want to do is tackle it head on.
Yeah.
Good. This is the whole point of this, is to figure out how to, it is hard, and that's why we're doing it.
Yes. I think Jesus demonstrated it is kind of hard. If we're to be like Jesus, not just sit by the pool or sit in a chair passively.
Yeah,
hard is where transformation happens. But I mean, don't make it bad hard.
I think you're pretty clear that the hard part is a normal outcome of a transparent process.
Well, I think getting a PhD is hard. I think doing the dishes is hard, right? But what are we aiming for? Just
actually, I think one of the things
floating in clouds. I mean, that's not my goal. I'm being a Christian.
Yeah. So, but I think the interesting thing is that there's several things that help with doing the hard thing about hard things is the famous book by Ben Horowitz. I've heard is a Christian, actually, although he doesn't talk about his faith directly. But the idea that, one, it helps to know that you're doing a hard thing. If someone pretends it's easy and says, just do it, and then you find it's really, really hard, then that's incredibly frustrating and demoralizing and shaming, frankly. The second, so one thing is to know it's hard. Second is to have a process. Like, okay, I'm gonna run a marathon, therefore I'm gonna hire a trainer. I'm gonna lose 20 pounds. I'm going to start jogging. I'm not gonna just go and run a marathon. There are people who do that, but most, I did it I like to do, unreasonable requests on reasonable terms. And then the third thing is seeing role models have done it, right? If you see somebody else do it, they say, oh, I get it, I can do that, or I think try to do it with you.
I think what came to mind was there's two aspects of hard. Like, it's a lot of work. And the other aspect would be, I have no clue how to do this.
Yes.
Never been done before. We don't have a model.
Yeah.
Or role model.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip ahead. I want to find a good verse to describe it, but let's figure out where we're going first. So that kind of jumps into this idea of the community advancement protocol, in that let's try and figure out, so I want to both do this and figure out how to teach this. right? And so this was the phrase I came up with, a community advancement proposal protocol, or maybe just call it community advancement protocol, because that's really hard to say. That we walk through these steps and say, you know, hey, I think there's an area where our community can do better. And we kind of formalize and enculturate this idea of, hey, you know, don't complain, don't just leave, don't pull a coup, let's do this in a deliberate process. And this is very much, and so that's the idea of talking about, you know.
Okay, just once again, what was the problem? I'm super clear what the problem is.
So so we're going to go through those pieces and
okay.
We'll figure out
All right, got it.
And then, so yeah, so what the critical friends protocol. So I think maybe that's probably worth having a slide on that, because this is what I wanted to specifically get.
I mean, the problem is generically, I'm not perfect, right?
I mean, so there's many levels here, and so, well, let's, sorry, my brain's glitching, I guess is the right word. Or missing a few, not hitting on all cylinders.
It's
so,
Friday.
I think let's just focus on the criticals and protocols. So the idea is that if we want to improve things, first we want to get a shared understanding of the problem, right? And then we need to pause. So the idea is, so let me lay out a problem definition, right? And then we have a break for clarification, like, yeah, we all agree that this is a problem. Okay.
Can I add something here? It might not go on the slide, but it ties into what you said. And there should be some sizing, some discussion where people acknowledge this is a 5-minute thing or this is a 5-year thing. You know, that, like you said, get some buy-in to the level of difficulty.
Yeah.
Make sure there's not this just do it mentality.
Scope.
Yeah, scope and sizing. Now, scope still could be like, yeah, we just pray and everything will magically be fixed, right?
Well, first of all, first we have to agree on what the problem is that we want to solve.
Right.
Then before we discuss the solution. But I think there's actually I guess what I'm saying is seriousness of the problem, right? It can't be a 1. It's got to be closer to a 10, and that means it's not a 5-minute. Let's just pray once and everything will magically happen. Well, I mean, I don't know. So I guess I'm not sure the failure mode you're trying to avoid is
they just do it, right? That.
Well, I mean, we might want to just do it. The question is, I think the thing that is interesting to me before. I
guess I'm trying to motivate people. If people think, oh yeah, you know, sure, it's a big problem, but it's just trivial. We've done this before.
Well, I mean, then the question is that, so then I think I want to address that part later, which is that we have a solution criteria. Like what would a solution have to do? Before we say what the solution is, we say a solution should do X, Y, and Z, so that we don't prejudice our choice of a solution.
Okay, if it's goal directed, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying emotionally, some people will think this is 1 weekend per month. Some people say this is 3 hours per day, and that's a pretty big gap.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the question is that rather than worrying about, so there's a project planning piece, which I hear you in terms of like, first I want to say like, this is the problem we want to solve, that it's worth solving, right? Maybe problem, validation. Let me just like throw those words in there because there's too many, but let's go back to problem statement.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is maybe the way you address my concern is under clarification, there's a drill down. You do a pretty in-depth exploration of the depth of the problem, because otherwise people are going to just naturally say, oh yeah, it's just it's just this one issue and it's vague and we'll just take some vague approach. But if you realize, wow, my house not only has termites, it has this issue, it has that issue, and that thing takes 6 months and I got to get approvals from the city, you know.
Well, right. So the hard part is coming up with so I think the way to do it, I mean, this is actually the test, is if we state the problem in a way that people say, yes, I get it, then we've, we have,
yeah, I'm just skeptical when they say, I get it, that they're thinking it's 1 week in a month.
right. But as long as the question is that in this context, you and I have to define the problem well enough.
Yeah.
That that it captures the right elements. And then,
I guess I'm just trying to use some metrics throughout here. I could still see some people saying, great, it's important.
well, okay.
I can do 1 week in a month.
Well, sorry. Let me be concrete.
Yeah.
Okay. And before we get into that failure mode. Okay. And first of all is the,
and I think I mentioned it I bring it up for this particular topic because we have no context. If it's church, it's
the context we have is
if it's school, it's 5 days a week. If it's work, it's 6 days a week, right?
So this context is very specifically trying to tame the chatpocalypse. Okay, it's
oh, I missed that. Okay.
What we discussed last Saturday, remember?
Yeah.
So for today, for this week, we want to start with this one very concrete problem.
Got it. I missed the title, Taming Chat. Got it.
Yes. All right. Is your cache refreshed from last Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right. So I want to at least give people some. Oh crap! My puppy need to go out. Let's.
No worries.
Ron, do you have school now? Okay. All right. So let's see if the puppy settles down. If not, I may need to take a break or figure out how to do this remotely. So the idea is that, so what I'm going to do is we're going to define a problem. And so let's do the concrete and back out into the abstract.
Right. Great.
Okay. So the idea is that, this is the TGR, let's be more explicit here. Yeah, iMessage threads.
Great.
So this is kind of the good, bad, and ugly.
Yep.
So this is the idea of the problem statement. So the first question is to get, goodness, the dogs are going bonkers for no obvious reason.
So it's a dog capitaloops.
Yeah. So, and this will already happen. Goodness, let me try and put my headphones on, see if that reduces your background noise. Quinn, chill. Oh, come on, you two. Now you decide to work together. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
It's good.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the idea is then we go through this after we have this summing of the problem. Then we go into the clarifying questions phase of the critical friends protocol, right? Where we just say, okay, do people have questions about it? Do they agree it's an issue? It's worth our time on that, etc. And missing. Okay, then I think the next step is to, which I was realizing is the solution criteria. We want something that is, I mean, so it's kind of implicitly in the problem statement, but I realize it's probably worth to be explicit about, right? We wanted the universal.
Oh, yeah.
One. I don't know. There's actually something going on that he is right to be upset about, like somebody working in our front yard. I see absolutely no one doing anything except maybe there's this, our neighbor is raking their leaves and somehow this is a problem. Let me try closing the shutters. Let's see if we can ignore the problem, it will go away. Let me try that, puppy. Or do you just want a distraction? Let me try phase 2 of, yes, what? Can you take them out? What? You're in school, okay. I think he needs to go out, all right. So then let's just kind of, so let me just, the puppy seems to have calmed down. Let me see if this lasts for a bit. I know, so many things going on. Actually, the puppy is whining. I think I need to take him out. Sorry about that. Cute puppy cameo. Steve, could you talk about the Critical Friends Protocol and how it works in this context and kind of this idea? I mean, I tried to capture it on this slide. Maybe you and Bill can discuss it for our listeners. While I deal with the puppies.
So Bill, I was listening to your thoughts about how to make sure that the audience doesn't just, leap to easy solutions. I believe if the pitch is, or the problem statement is formulated following a set of criteria of what should be explained in the problem statement, then the audience can offer, can ask clarifying questions based upon exactly the same criteria. For example, if in the problem statement they do A and C, but they skipped item B, in the clarifying questions we say, could you clarify what B would be? How do you imagine the time? How do you imagine the scope? Are you sure that you've accounted for such and such? So that way, if it's part of the documented process of listening and then reviewing what we've heard and making sure that the statement matches the criteria that we've established, we have a check and balance, both in the presentation and then in the way that it's being reviewed and reflected.
So you're saying the presenter should should probe to see if people understand the sizing?
There's usually a facilitator.
Both directions, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the statements should meet the criteria, but then the clarifying question should make sure that the statements met the criteria. And if not, that's where we ask that question. And in fact, the whole protocol would allow for, especially when you get to the I wonder part, that's when you say, well, I still haven't heard you state how B would occur, how much time that might take, what is the level of commitment, what is the level of priority. I wonder if you've considered, and you share an idea. So rather than always say to someone, you didn't say X, Y, or Z, you specifically ask them, I wonder if you have considered how X, Y, or Z could work and perhaps a context or a possible partial solution to lead their thinking in a new direction.
This is the facilitator, yeah. Mm-hmm. I see it. I think for some reason, I think it's absolutely essential, especially in the volunteer context, in the, hey, we haven't done anything like this before context. What are we talking context? I just think people are going to be just all over the map in terms of
Yes.
Ernie goes off and codes for 2 days versus we need like 10 people to be committing
Yes.
an hour per day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our church is currently tackling this kind of problem area with respect to the elementary school that is close to the church. So church leadership is wondering, how do we support the teachers and the principal who, in San Jose Unified School District, the teachers are supposed to show up in their classroom spaces and teach from there, even if it's remote. So they're present on the campus. And the pastoral staff is wondering, well, how do we support these teachers? How do we support this community? And they've never done it before.
Right. Yeah, that's a good example of who knows how much time and commitment. Yeah.
None, but they're exploring and they're pulling in answers. So starting with the principal, how do we develop a relationship with the principal? How do we develop trust?
Right.
And I said, well, that my wife Gloria and I advised on that and suggested that's exactly the right place to start, because you will get nowhere without the principals opening the door. You will never get to the teachers unless the principal opens the door.
Thanks. Dog eat tranquilizers. It worked. Whatever you did.
Actually, it's kind of funny. There's two kinds of problems. Problems that if you ignore them, they will go away, and problems if you ignore them, they get much, much worse.
Yes.
So my older dog he was distracted by something outside, and so he had the first kind of problem. I just had to teach him to ignore the problem, and it would go away. The second one was the puppy actually needed to use the bathroom, and if I had not ignored that, it would have gotten much, much worse.
Yes.
And
yes,
the hard part of leadership is distinguishing between those two kinds of problems.
Yes.
Or being responsible in general, to avoid the L word for Bill's sake. And so one of the goals of trying to come up with a protocol is that, in fact, I think we don't even need this now. Where's the skip button? Let's focus on this critical friends protocol, is to say, look, I think there's a problem here. Let me bring it to the community and say, like, do we agree there's a problem? Yes. Okay, this is the kind of solution I think this problem needs. Do we agree that this is important enough and that if we solve it, we should do it this way? And, it's really weird to me that the more I think about this, that usually we pitch solutions rather than pitching ownership of the problem. I mean, I call this the producer-consumer dichotomy, right? Is that, and this is what, that's what I've been trained to do as well, right? I have the solution, therefore your problem should fit this. As opposed to saying, hey, we have a problem. Do we agree there's a problem? Do we agree we want a solution? And only then do we pitch them on the answer. So the idea was that we have this thing where we have sort of a brief period of where we, I talk for a small amount and then the group discusses for a larger amount. And only then do we go into the pitch. And then we go into and that can take more time. But then, and then I think is the interesting thing to go into the critical control, which is just eerily similar to what Bill and I developed during Truth Bowl, where we pause and make people reflect. And then we didn't quite have it this formal, but the idea is that the speaker leaves the room and people are asked to, I think it's probably worth calling that out as a group discussion, or sort of a kind of a private discussion, right, without the speaker present.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that what the way you had the person turn their back?
They turned their back. They could still hear the entire conversation.
Right. Right. Yeah. But it's a sense. It's private may not be the right word. I don't know what the right word is, but
private would make sense by sending the speaker out of the room. But
yeah. he is invisible, or he's not present in the discussion, even if he's present
Correct.
in the body.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
now I think the puppy's just being whiny. And then what is I think there was a reflection phrase. Is that a response, or how would what happens at the end of the private discussion?
So the presenter, the presenter comes back to the audience and addresses the comments and questions that they have heard. And the audience is quiet. They're just listening for a period of time. The presenter is not defending themselves. They are just using their time to reflect on the ideas and the feedback or questions that they heard. So it's not point counterpoint kind of an argument.
Yeah.
It's, oh, I heard, I heard these comments. This is what I'm reflecting on. And they're not valuing those statements in any particular way. It's just, it's closing the feedback loop. It's acknowledging what was heard.
Right.
And the presenter chooses which of the comments to reflect on. It's not that they are compelled to reflect on all of them. It could be overwhelming.
Right. And then okay, so then here's just the thing where we want to turn it into more of a communal process rather than just
Yes.
pedagogical one.
Yes.
I wrote down "we haves." I'm not sure if I got that from.
It's originally "I have," and what that
Right.
is the audience is now contributing their resources to help solve the problem. So by it could be I or we. It just depends on how the group sees itself. Does the group see itself as a collective whole that could do something? That means that would be the we. If individuals within the group say, I know someone, I have a contact, I have this resource that I can contribute, and they do it independently, then it doesn't involve the whole group. So it could be I/we. But this is taking personal responsibility for helping the presenter solve the problem.
Okay. I'll make it V/I, but I think it's good there. And then I think there needs to be like a facilitator summarize, and some of the course will be ongoing notes. And then we close in prayer. So that would be the thing. I mean, if I can get to number 10, it would be a little bit more biblical, but we'll go with the 9 for now.
9 works, and this is where the facilitator is the one who can take the step back and pull the parts and pieces from the presenter to the audience together and give a type of summary and reflection on how well the process worked, how they perceive the audience's reactions to the presenter, just as you're suggesting in that type of summary, and then of course, finishing with a prayerful conclusion to just that particular presentation. It does not call for next steps. That was never really part of the process. That's what the presenter is supposed to go away with,
right,
and figure out. And this process could be more robust if you have that presenter come back and say and explain how they process the information and what are the next steps they feel they need to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to know, to identify which role is speaking at a certain time.
Yeah. Okay, let's kind of walk through the timing of this. So I think, having you walk through the process, and then I'd pitch the problem statement. We take 5 minutes for questions, social criteria, 5 minutes for response, and then 5 minutes for the actual presenter pitch. Quiet assessment, audience discussions, 5 minutes of likes and wonders. Presenter reflects, contributions. And let's call it action items, because that is not, I think.
The question here, Ernie, is who's making the action items? Since the presenter is the one who has an idea, it's their effort. It's going to be their project. It's
right. They're the prime mover of it. But then I think when people say, I have this, then you say, okay, you have an action item to get me that resource or introduce me to this person or help me with that problem. So both things that I need to do and things that they would need to do.
Then the group can help the presenter identify what those action items are.
Right, and that's what I think it is that there are things that, these are the framing is that this is what they're talking about, but the output of that is a series of actions.
Yes. This is partly, this ties in well with the community responsibility for the presenter and helping the presenter, as well as being accountable to the presenter and holding the presenter accountable for what the next things might be.
Right. Especially if the whole point of this is to actually solve a community problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's key.
Yes, I think that's the interesting nuance that I think is beyond the original. The original Critical Friends proposal is really just, you're doing your own thing. We're just going to look over your shoulder and give you advice.
Exactly.
And we're trying to move this. And again, that was kind of why I originally pitched as sort of the Great Works idea. But I want to try and figure out how to nuance this to that this is not me trying to solve my problem. This is me trying to solve our problem.
Well, I don't think
you have a stake.
I don't think you nuance it. You just say it. That if you nuance that.
Well, okay. So
you have to state it. You have to state it up front very clearly, boldly.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there a way to frame that? Because I want to.
I mean, I would say it right up front to get their attention. Again, I'm all about motivation. Okay. This is for you, right?
That being the problem statement?
No, this is like the typical investor presentation. What's in it for me? What's in it for you, right?
Yeah. Should it I would think it would be stated in the problem statement.
Well, but even before
right up front. Right up front.
I think we need to be up clear that whose problem are we solving?
Yeah, right up front. But it's the
right,
same thing. Why should I be interested? Why should I be interested? Because it's going to benefit you and our community. You got to say that.
And frankly, success would be, this is a problem I think we need to solve. And then you discover that the community has a far more serious problem that keeps us from solving it. Like people are hating each other, or somebody's starving or whatever. And you say, okay, if we find out like this is not the most important or salient problem to be solving, then we pivot and forget everything I said and let's focus on what is actually the more important problem.
Right.
I'm trying to blend Bill's idea with Ernie's statement. So upfront, before we even step into the conversation, sort of in the opening of our time together, it seems that we need to establish that this is a group process about something the group cares about. This is a TGR process that TGR cares about. And therefore, every person is committed to this, to participating in this process.
Yeah, I think it's a little presumptuous. Because I heard Ernie say, what if we figure out there's actually a deeper problem? So we have to say, I think it's okay for Ernie to say, this is how I think this is the problem I think exists, but I'm open. But it, definitely,
okay.
it's affecting all of you, and you should really be
Oh, but yeah,
totally motivated to work with me on
I
this.
am presuming, but then I could be wrong.
Right. Well, you just gave
Okay.
examples, right? You just did it.
Yeah.
And we may have to pivot. You just said it.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think actually this is I wanted to like also subvert our prayer time into this, and that brings this verse into saliency for me. Is like this is what I want us to get better at doing. Right?
Yeah.
Is that and this is a way to do that, is that we let's call it this, problem identification.
Yeah. Although, can I criticize that goal?
Sure.
Because it's directly related to what we're just talking about. I don't think I want to become God. What I want to grow into is to develop the ability as a body to discern what Jesus is saying we should be working on. I'm not going to take.
Sorry, what did I? Okay, you heard something. You disagree with something I didn't think I said. So I'm confused.
In every respect, no, I'm not going to be making the judgment calls about how to direct the world. But I will be a servant of Jesus, who I want to direct the world as a body.
Okay, sorry, I still have no idea what you think I said that you're reacting to.
I'm just looking right here at this prayer time.
The Bible verse. I didn't write this. Paul said this. You disagree with Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that. What do you think Paul is doing wrong?
Just one verse. Well, it says like I can become God. I can knowledge of good and evil.
So okay, if you're reading it that way, that's not. Well, I think it says we're growing into Christ, into being Christ's body.
To the extent that Christ took orders from God, it's okay.
But I think, okay, sorry, it's not growing up necessarily to be Christ, but I read that as growing up into Christ, into being connected to Christ.
All right. In every respect. Just questioning that.
We will in all things. Okay, so that's
But
like that.
But you see why I raise this is because I think what needs to happen when we present to the group is what the real goal is this a problem that Jesus wants us to be working on?
Right.
Giving affirmation that this is a big issue for our community. I think it is, but I need others to sense that the Spirit is saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill, you clarified my misunderstanding, and that is that the presenter needs to make that statement as they're identifying the problem, not stating it in the broader context of the whole.
It's not only up front. You have to say what's in it for me. You have to tell them their role, right?
Yeah.
You gotta say, and you are here because I expect you to do the following 4 things. And at the top of the list is verify that this is from God, that Jesus is wanting our community to lean into this issue. Yeah.
So Bill is outlining some criteria for how the problem identification should go.
Well, I'm saying what the people, for some reason, I'm just putting myself in the shoes of someone who's dragged to this meeting, and I want to get them.
Hopefully no one's dragged to this meeting. They may be ambushed, but they're not dragged.
No, that's just hyperbolic, right? It's like, oh, it's interesting. I want to hear what Ernie's talking about. It's like, no, it's way beyond that.
Right. So there's a recruiting aspect that's going on, right? And that we are pitching them to embrace a way of looking at the world, a way of saying, this is who we are, and this is where we are, and this is where we want to get to. But I think I like this verse in that this is the thing that is hard. You speaking the truth in love and growing up, and importantly, growing up into Christ as the head. Like, this is not a pitch to make me your head. I hope not. It's pitch to let me serve you in this way, and help us all get better at growing into Christ as our head.
I understand what you're saying, Ernie, and I respect Bill's caution in how it could be misinterpreted. Bill's viewpoint often comes, it challenges me to remember that I have made assumptions about the people in my church, or people that I know from Peninsula Bible Church as a specific example of a church, that they will think, act, or do something in a certain way because that's the way that I learned how to do it in that context. So therefore everybody must have learned how to do it like that.
Right.
And that's a mistake. That's an assumption on my part that I'm now learning how to reconcile, and then be more thoughtful about clarifying and teaching and understanding where did a misunderstanding of the scriptures come from?
Yeah.
My side or their side. So
Yeah. And so so like everything else we're doing, it's an experiment.
yeah,
I guess the main difference
exactly.
is that we are more strict in this experiment, and you and I in particular are kind of on the hook to work this and either, you know, achieve the desired result or discover unexpected learnings.
Both. Yeah, right. It's going to happen.
There are things
sure.
we hope to learn and things that we will be surprised to learn. We're trying to do 2-3 things at once. We're trying to like work on my concrete pitch. We are trying to develop this, how do you use the phrase critical community protocol, building on the critical friends protocol.
Right, yes.
And then also deal with this the meta question of like, what is this group? And if it's like, hey, we're a group that actually models how to work through issues as a group.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've talked about that and talked around that, but we're also pitching that. So I think the progression actually works well for me. We have the introduction. Here, and I'll pitch Ted on that to make sure he's comfortable using that for the intro slide. And then I think this purpose statement, you know, getting people to see if they're at least either in alignment with or willing to suspend disbelief in to see how it works out. And then I actually really like this as our verse, to just, before we start working it, we just pray into it. And then we go from there into you. Is it worth calling out names to make this explicit, or do you think we can handle the trade-off?
It would clarify for all of us.
Yeah.
And I've often done that with group presentations, because when multiple people need to speak, they don't always remember which is the slide and that they need to start with. So that's,
yeah. Okay, so let's check the timing here. This puts us at around 45 minutes or so.
yeah.
Do these timings feel plausible? Does anything look really rushed, or do you think it's actually good to have some discipline on?
Well, let me say what I like. I like that you emphasize the group contributions and clarifying questions over the speaker's role of identifying the problem.
Okay.
So I like how you.
Ooh, meta!
You
You're using the I like protocol. Cool.
Yeah, it's just got to practice these things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking. I got 10. I got 15. I got 20, 21, 26, 31, 33, 43. Yeah, 45 minutes. 45 minutes to get to the end still leaves us a little bit of room, which is great.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of margin for in case the intro goes, you know, the intro will take a couple of minutes, and setting up takes a couple of minutes, so it gets us close.
I'm back. Sorry, it's a critical call. Now I'm focused.
No worries.
It's a critical community call.
The main decision was to add little subtitles so we know who's speaking on which slide.
Yep. Got all the times
and we're
there.
looking at around 45 or so minutes of scheduled time, which gives us some time for an intro and some margin at the end.
Right.
Do you have any wonders? So we talked about the things Steve likes. Anything you wonder about in this agenda?
I could start that wonder question, Bill, if you'd like another moment of time to reflect.
No, please go ahead. Yeah.
The part that I'm wondering about, Ernie, is not just about how this protocol works, but in the timing, in our time together for that hour. And one of the elements of us getting together is there's a small amount of time in which we talk with one another and we develop an interpersonal relationship. But primarily, we're developing a group relationship. We show up and we walk into this, we get into the space and we get into the conversation and discussion. To a small extent in the chat, there's a continuing of the interpersonal part as one person will respond to another in chat directly. I am, and this may be part of what is in your problem identification statement. I'm not sure, but I have learned more about individuals in the group because we've had separate individual text messaging exchanges. Eric is a primary example.
Yeah.
Bill and I have had exchanges on a certain topic. You and Bill have had exchanges in certain ways and or other conversations. I'm not sure, or so I wonder if it's important for the bigger TGR context, if there were time built into the hour in which we were getting to know one another more as individuals as opposed to us as a group. And I don't have, it's a wonder.
Yeah, it's a thing. So in terms of Tuesday, the plan is that it kind of happens quote unquote off stage, right? Usually people join early and they chat, and then only when we go on to live on Facebook do we enter the scripted portion of the day.
Yes.
I do think that so there'll be the same amount of, so this is definitely more strict in that we don't have as much unstructured time because we have an agenda that we're going to try and hit.
Yes.
Not inconsistent with what we've done in the past. And like, I'm not saying I want to do this for every session because I think it is a bit exhausting.
This is hard, by the way. I learned the hard way when I asked 5 groups of people to present one right after the other. By the time we got to the third one, the audience was exhausted.
Yeah.
They were almost in revolt. Like, couldn't we just cut the protocol short? And I said, well, that's not fair to the group who comes with a shortened protocol. They don't what you're saying is, you don't want to go through the process to help the last 2 groups because you got tired with the first 3. Now, I could have paced it.
I have something important to say. I echo that in spades. I have 2 criticisms of small groups. We never take time for people to tell their stories. I've joined 25 new small groups during lockdown. And even now, 6 months later, some people are still starting to say a little bit about their story, which is like 6 months too late for me. So small groups just assume everyone's normal, everyone's fine, there's no issues, go. And that's terrible. My second complaint is I hate to come in cold. It's like, we're going to be doing this deep discussion on, like love. But if I don't know that, it's like, I'll come in and I'm thinking about COVID. And it's like, so unlike what you just described, 5 presentations, this is 1 presentation. So I wonder if we should tell people a lot of stuff up front so they can be better prepared. So they will, as they're chit-chatting, say, hey, I had this issue, this company.
Right. Well, certainly once I will, as usual, send out, finish up the slides, add them to my blog notes and send it out on Sunday morning in advance. So at least they're not coming in cold.
Okay.
So those who care can, preview it.
Well, that's important. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a fair point. So yeah, that was my intent. So it's good to be explicit about that. You know, it raises another thing when you say that, like, I really do want to create a context where we can hear each other's stories. And I don't know a good way to do that. I mean, getting everyone on chat would be one step towards that. I don't know a good protocol to actually engage it, because some people are, you know, will totally jump in with both feet and share really great, deep, meaningful connecting stories.
Yeah, so here's the protocol.
And other people wouldn't want to do anything at
Here's the
all.
protocol I did at church. I made everyone do a PowerPoint presentation about themselves, including your favorite verses, this and that. It was all done offline, and I could read it at my pace, at a slow pace. I could think.
Yeah.
There's no need for it to be done live.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't feel like I have enough authority to actually make everyone do that.
I know.
No, it's always an option.
I mean, it's like, you know, it's like sending a CV to a job
Right,
interview,
but
right?
like, this is the weird thing, right? Is that I think it would be a great thing to do, to figure out for someone to try that. But again, how much you know, a small group leader has sort of the authority vested in them to say, you must do this. I don't think we have that. I guess we could do that as a pitch. Is that, you know, for your, maybe, you know, the next CCP would be you pitching people on, hey, I would like us to all get to know each other. This is the problem.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
And this is the pitch. And people say, yeah, I'm totally on board. They'll say, no way, Steve. No way, Bill. Or and we go with that. So all right. So now,
I mean, I just quickly. So Steve, why did you raise this issue here? So it's not just, hey, how would we share stories? There's something about sharing the stories or where we're coming from will make Ernie's presentation go better and the audience contributions.
Yeah. I pulled in 2 levels of thinking on what Ernie is about to do. Mm-hmm. So we had just talked about how much time it will take to go through this protocol is roughly about 45 minutes, which leaves roughly, you know, up to 15 additional minutes for something else. But the something else is outside the context of this protocol. So I was wondering if the something else could possibly be, how do we get to know one another better? Right. However, I'm also speaking directly to Ernie to say, what I believe you are proposing is a way of how we conduct ourselves as TGR.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so I think so first of all, as a formal thing, if we wanted to add an icebreaker socialization step in there, that gets us to 10. Totally fine with that. I would like this to be a thing we do. I don't necessarily intend it to be the only thing we do. And certainly this is even if it is a thing we do, at most it would be like for this season.
I get it. Okay. So I would be the last person to propose that we should always do the same thing every week. I believe that we could have a repertoire of the way each week could possibly go and always remain flexible to how it actually may go, which is how we do it now. Yeah. In terms of we're flexible on how it may go. You typically introduce each session that way, Ernie. So that's cool. I know that we're not going to do this critical community protocols, you know, week after week after week as a structure for, we're getting through we're doing this for a purpose, and that is to hear from individuals who have a passion of something they want to speak about and get feedback on. Am I correct so far?
Yeah. And we have 2 minutes before I have a hard stop at 10, so.
Got it. Then I'm good.
So the action item, do we want to add a socialization piece, or should we just do 45 and give ourselves some slack?
No, yeah. It was only a wonder. Okay. And it was spoken mostly to you as you think about what you're going to say on Tuesday.
Okay, and also how I frame it when I pitch this out. Yeah.
Since we haven't done this protocol yet, we should leave all those 15 minutes of time for us to have a fudge factor of time.
Yes. All right. Sounds good. Any last comments before I knock it down?
Yeah. Looking at 6 and 8, I always get confused or see people cheat when they do I like, I wonder, and we, I have. So I
You wonder?
yeah, because like I wonder, have you considered doing it this way? And I think you should look. And then the contributions are, you should do it this way. So there's all these gray areas here. Yeah, I like because, you know, so if it's, I mean, if it's just I like, just boom, 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 it's like 1 minute. But if people kind of go beyond I like and they start talking about solutions and this and that, right? So I don't think you need 5. I mean, the contributions in 10 minutes is super short.
It is. We have to play it flexibly,
Yeah.
but also, Bill, to help address some of your concerns, the facilitator has to kind of get in there
Okay.
with two
All right.
hands and
Problem
manage
solved.
the way the
Problem solved.
conversation
Okay.
goes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Stephen's problem. All right. I will let you to ponder it. I will keep chatting
Thanks.
about this online. I can run to my next meeting. God bless you all. Thank you.
Yeah, God bless. Thanks.
Thanks for your patience with the puppy.